Hello, it's October 2022, and before I get into this video, I'm going to be addressing a few things right now. First thing I'd like to address is my apologies to everyone for not doing a video in the past few weeks. I've had a lot going on with my health. There seems to be some pretty serious complications from what I understand, and the damage from the infection that was shutting down my organs back in June caused a lot of damaged scar tissue, and there's still issues going on with that. So I've been looking into that. I'm not going to get into all the details right now. And then I had issues, or have issues, with blood clots and everything else, and been trying to take care of all that. And on top of everything, there's been a lot of other changes in my life. And despite everything, I have had some good things, many good things happen over the past few months and past few weeks, and I'm very grateful for that. Some would call it that they're blessings, and I am very thankful. And I'm going to get into all this stuff in future videos, and there's going to be a change in plans as well in my life, and I'm going to be preparing for a long journey, and I'm going to need help with that. And at the destination of this journey, there's also going to be some medical attention I'm going to be pursuing as well, with regards to my health and everything else. So again, sorry I haven't done a video in a few weeks, and I know quite a few of you actually reached out, and it's nice to know that people care and asking, what's going on, if I'm okay. Now, the second thing I'd like to address before I get into this video is I noticed there was a video regarding Christine Wall and her story, and apparently there was a little gathering in front of the Calgary courthouse with regards to this, and it's nice to see that her story, people are paying attention to her story and trying to help. And it would be nice to see the same level of dedication as, for example, the past few years, past year, with regards to other events that are happening in the world. So I just want to give a shout out again to Christine Wall, and I may have mispronounced her last name in the previous video. My apologies. I've just been having a lot going on this past summer, and again, sorry, but I would like to highlight my gratitude to those people who are taking note of her story and trying to help. And hopefully that doesn't stop, and these people and more to come will see it through to the end. Now, I just want to talk about something that I mentioned to someone recently. And as winter is approaching, this is on my mind a lot. And I'm going to be focusing on the winter of 2020, 2021, because it was the most brutal for me with everything that was going on with these cheap Chinese diesel heaters and finances and everything else. I'm going to get into that in a moment. The winter of 2022, there was a kind family, and my gratitude to them for their assistance throughout the winter. I don't think I could have made it through the winter of 2022 without their help. I know I couldn't have. So I just want to give a shout out to them for that. But I want to, and 2022 also had its own challenges for me, but again, I wasn't alone going through that. Now, the winter of 2021, it was a brutally cold winter. Some of my videos and pictures that I took, minus 44 Celsius. I'll never forget, and blizzards and everything else. And I remember during the daytime stepping outside and seeing the snow that was caked on to the lower half of my vehicle. And the upper half was almost no snow stuck to it because the heat inside, when the cheap Chinese diesels heaters did work, the hot air rises. So from about where the gear shifter is up, it was toasty warm inside, comfortable, very comfortable. So I didn't realize until one day I stepped out and really looked that heat had radiated through, for example, the windows and the metal, and the snow didn't really stick to it. And that was kind of a subtle wake-up call to the seriousness of how I've been living. And I've told this story with, for example, my boots freezing to the floor of the driver footwell inside. And I recently told someone the story about how close I was to a situation that was literally life and death. And all the decisions I make, especially in the wintertime, are life and death situations. And I'll get into that in a moment. So when the heaters were working in 2021, the upper half where the bed is and everything was warm. And then when I would put my feet, for example, on the seat, driver's seat, like to scooch down to sit in it, it was cold. And then the footwell was as cold as it was outside. And so when I would come in with my winter shoes or my boots or whatever, they would freeze to the floor. So you have to keep in mind that minus 44, that was literally only about 1.5 feet away from me, those extreme temperatures. And I was literally cocooned in this bubble of warm air. And that's the only thing that saved me, was this little bubble of warm air when the heater was working. Now, a lot of you know that since those cheap Chinese diesel heaters, a few people came together and got me a good quality heater, and it works phenomenal. Going back to the winter of 2021. So when the heater was working, that was the only thing that was separating me from life and death. And around me that was containing that bubble was literally a centimeter or two of metal and glass, a piece of cardboard that I had at the time. But it was when the heater wasn't working, which was pretty much half the time in those extreme cold temperatures. Unfortunately, at the time I had a friend of mine lent me their military grade sleeping bag, but it was still cold to breathe. And I had to make life and death decisions on how long do I run the engine? Do I run the engine because I was low on gas? Ran out of food. And I remember the last location that I was at, when all this was taking place. I remember that location because I was making that decision, and then I remember turning the engine on, warming up a little bit, turning it off, watching the gas gauge, and being tired and hungry and stressed. And this one particular night in this one location, I had fallen asleep with the engine running because it was so nice and warm, and I was just so exhausted. And I woke up and I panicked. And there was not enough. I knew there shouldn't have been enough gas to get me to the nearest gas station, which was far away because I was in the bush. I was in the backcountry. And I'll never forget that. And a little bit of money had come in around 3 3:30 in the morning. And I just remember saying and praying, just get me to the highway and then I'll just walk the rest of the way. And I had bundled up, prepared for that, just to jump out whenever I ran out of gas. And I drove, and it was a blizzard. You couldn't even see the road, and it was just a sheet of snow when I was coming off the trail onto a dirt road, onto a narrow highway or roadway, eventually to the highway. And I remember getting to the highway. I had to make a turn, and I just like, oh, thank you. And I just thought, I'm going to keep driving until I run out of gas. And then I kept just praying, that just, however far I get. And I was prepared. I had my small little jerry can ready beside me. And then I saw through the snow coming down the lights for this gas station that's on the highway. I'm like, oh, okay. And I kept driving, and as I pulled up to the pump, I looked at my gas gauge, and it was like way below E. I shouldn't have made it, but I did. My prayers were answered. And that's the type of thing that I've had to deal with, living in the circumstances that I have been. Making life and death decisions, literally. You don't have to be stranded on a deserted island or on a mountaintop to be surviving life and death. And I've mentioned this in recent videos, how homeless people have to do that all the time as well. And after that, people had come together and helped me out, and I'll never forget the winter of 2021. Literally, the cold air, nothing between the cold air and I, maybe about a foot and a half distance between life and death. And if my foot would have come out like down below, it would have got frostbite while I was sleeping. And that's how serious how I'm living is. And I'm reminded by all this, as I said, because winter's coming up. Another winter ahead of me. And on a positive note, next spring, I have a really good feeling about next spring and my life. I just have to get through another winter. And again, I've had a lot of really great blessings over the past few months, past few weeks. A lot of changes, and I'm going to get into all this in my next videos. And thank you for everyone who touched base, who cared enough to ask if I'm okay, everything's okay. I'm okay. And a shout out to the people who are giving Christine Wall the support that she needs and deserves to reunite her family. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.